Hey, what's up, everybody? Time for another morning walk and little talk. This time I'm not alone. I brought my main man,
Hi.
Timothy, one of my two favorite creations of my entire life. But Tim and I are going to talk a little bit today about kind of like facing obstacles and turning negatives into positives. And basically, so we're going to use the examples of like Timothy is going into high school. So he's a freshman this year. He's going to a new school. He just moved out with us full time. He was living in Denver with his mom for the last 4 years, and so I finally have my little man full time. But so he went out for football. He put in a lot of effort this summer. He went to every single conditioning class and or every single conditioning practice with the team. He's never played tackle football before. He's only played flag football seasons in Denver. So it was kind of a whole new experience for him. And, we talked a lot through the summers that going through the conditioning workouts and getting ready for tryouts, mentally preparing for, success. Or if he didn't make the team, like how to see it in a positive light. But he did. He went out and he made the team. So we have a little cornerback for the high school football team. And, but he's not starting. And so we have discussions about that, which is fine because he understands, like, he's playing football with some of these kids who have been playing since they were 5 and 6 years old. So they have more experience and, they have more practice. And so I think in a situation like that where kids want to play sports and, of course, every kid wants to get out and they want to play. But when you get into a team sport, the guys that are starters are the ones that have more experience. So, he's sitting on the sidelines, and so we talk about like the feelings that come up, right? And so sometimes people get bummed out. They're sitting on the bench, and what do they do when they're sitting on the bench? They're just kind of looking at the grass, or they're not paying attention, or they're stuck in their own heads. And especially with some kids that aren't quite, they're still young and they're still maturing and they haven't faced a lot of challenges like that yet in their lives. They start to focus on the negative and they get stuck in their heads with like what they don't have rather than what they could work towards. So that's kind of what we were going to talk about this morning, is like turning those negatives into positives. So first off, Timothy, tell us a little bit about how did it feel to know that you put in all that effort this summer and the tryouts and that you made the team?
Well, it felt very good because I knew that I had tried my best and I had worked as hard as I could to be able to get to where I wanted to go. And then when I was able to accomplish that, it was a very good feeling because I was able to know that my effort paid off.
Yeah, that's awesome, right? And what do you feel was most important in that whole journey this summer? Was it like the goal of making the team, or do you think the effort that you put in was more important?
I think the most important part was the effort I put in because, like you said, this was my first time of ever trying out for tackle football, and I had in my mind that I might not make the team because there were kids who'd been playing for a lot longer than I had, and that I am kind of tiny, so I thought putting in as much effort as I could was more important, so that even if I didn't make it this year, the coaches would know that I would put in more effort next year to get better.
Awesome. That's awesome. So now, like we've talked about with you, not being a starter, so like during practice, you don't get to be in there for as many plays, and then you guys just had your first scrimmage last week, and you got in there for a couple series, and you had one good, like where you broke up a pass.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty awesome. And then you guys have your first game this week.
Mm-hmm.
But so let's talk a little bit about like where do you see, so I mean those negative feelings creep in. So when you're not starting or you feel like you want to play, like how did those negative feelings kind of go in your mind? Like what kind of hits you first with that?
Well, what hits me first is because knowing that I'm not starting, it's kind of sad because I thought I was better at a cornerback position, but when they told me that I wouldn't be starting, it was hard knowing that, even that I tried really hard and I didn't make the team. So it was hard, but then, like, also then it hits me. It's like, well, why did they put me secondary? Was I not trying hard enough? Or was I just not good enough or not tall enough? And then, so then it kind of like weighs me down, but then I have to remember that being on the sidelines, I haven't played for multiple years, and also I'm not the best. Even though I try hard, it's gonna take a while for me to get up to a starter position because I've never played before and I'm not like a great cornerback.
Awesome. Cool. So then, like, how do you combat those feelings? And then what do you do rather than focusing on, just feeling that way and feeling like you're not good enough, or, being bored at practice? Like, what are some of the strategies you do, or what is the stuff that you look at to try and change that situation?
Well, a few things I do is that I try and think about it like instead of a negative way, I think about it in a positive way. As like I think about when I'm like on the sidelines and I'm watching the starters play, I watch them specifically like the starting cornerbacks so that I know what I can improve on, and that so I know what they do, and I see what their footwork is, or like how they think about it, where they line up on the line based on who they're facing up against. So I always try and think about that in my mind, so if I do go out there that that I've improved and that I know what to do, so that I've gotten better. And then instead of getting bored, I make sure that I'm attentive, because it is a team sport. So like I try and make sure that I'm not like just standing around like bored looking around, that I'm like watching my whole team, and that I'm trying to, and then I think about it, like if I was bored by football, I wouldn't be on the team. So like I remember I wanted to be on the football team because it would be fun. So then I remember, like, instead of being bored, I should check out what will be fun, or like watch the team so that I'm not bored.
Good. That's awesome. And that's kind of, some of what we're talking about with the turning negatives into positives, where not just kids playing sports, right? But a lot of times in life, things don't go the way we want, right? Or we don't get a specific position at work. We don't get the raise that we want. We don't get the job that we want, or, whatever. We don't get the girl or the guy that we want. So people get caught up on that and feeling the I'm not good enough, or I didn't put in enough effort. And so rather than getting stuck with that, like just looking at it as an opportunity and a challenge to improve, and just like Timothy was saying, which I think is very smart, is that he uses that time to still learn. So rather than sitting on the sidelines and just waiting for his opportunity to go in and practice a play or play in the game, he's paying attention. He's looking at the people that are successful. He's looking at what they're doing, so that even though he's not there physically doing it, he's mentally doing it and he's learning. And, that's something I talk with a lot of my clients about, is just observe those that are successful, or observe the habits and the behaviors that you want to aspire to, rather than focusing on what you feel you're lacking. Like, understanding where your weaknesses are and taking time to reflect on that is a very powerful tool. But if you just get caught up in focusing on that, then you get stuck, right? So use that as an indicator of like, okay, here's my weaknesses. Like, be very honest with yourself. And then rather than getting stuck with that and seeing it as a big boulder in your way, like, then start to look left and right and decide like, okay, what's my path to improve from here? Like, how can I get better in this area? And how can I use this feeling of wanting to be better as motivation and fuel to improve and get forward? So, hopefully that helps. Sage words of advice from my mature 13-year-old. And we're going to enjoy the rest of our walk and have some father-son time. And hope you guys have a good rest of your day. See you later.
Bye.